genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the Ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. I have a guest here, but he's operating on his own. He's cut off from his chain of command, he's showing signs of pressure-induced psychosis, and he's got a nuclear weapon. So as a personal favor to me, Tom Loveman, is The Abyss a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
That's a good question. I love the movie, so I think it should be remade. I think one of the questions you might ask is, will it be remade?
I think
Would
this
it be
is
remade?
is a will be remade. I can see this being an eventual remake. I don't know if it should, but I think it will be, one way or the other.
Yeah, the problem with the movie, if you don't know the history of the movie, it was a nightmare to film. James Cameron directed it. He wanted to do everything live action or with miniatures. So there was the CG, which was groundbreaking at the time, was a very small part of the film.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing all these underwater shots, like people almost drowned, and there was like freezing cold, and everyone's miserable, and like the people who were like Ed Harris was in it, and he won't even talk about it anymore.
Ed Harris's hand is dyed blue, but sometimes it's the wrong hand, and it's inconsistent.
And he like punched James Cameron in the face at one point because
Did he really?
Yeah. The story is something like he was doing a take, and James Cameron kept filming while he was almost drowning. Yeah, stuff like that. And
I would punch James Cameron in the face too.
Yeah, well, James Cameron almost died too because his like underwater DP forgot to check his James Cameron's air levels while they were filming. So all these crazy things happened. Like who would want to do this again? It's kind of like that. They talk about the Waterworld nightmares. Being made. And now they're doing a remake of that, by the way, for TV.
Of course they are.
Yeah, but I don't know. I love this movie. It actually bombed at the box office, but I love the movie, and it wasn't perfect, but it was really, for me, it was a really good movie. I actually bought it on DVD ages ago, and I would love to see it remade. And with the CG we have today now, which that was all kind of the forerunner for. I imagine how amazing it could be, how
honestly,
cool it could be.
The CG in this movie, I thought still looked good.
Yeah.
Like, I was still impressed. I thought it was excellent CG.
Thank you, George Lucas and Industrial Light and Magic.
Oh, was it?
They did the VFX for it. Yeah.
They did an excellent job.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep in, Tom, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Before you were on last year, you were, I think, one of my last in-person records when we did How to Succeed in Business.
Secret of My Success.
And Success, whatever. The one that eventually, like, the week the podcast released turned out to be a Broadway musical.
Yes.
I have a fun coincidence about that follows this show when we get to casting. But for people who didn't listen to The Secret of My Success, tell people a little bit about yourself.
I am a writer, producer, editor, game developer here in LA, and I originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
Ooh.
Yes, and I've done some short films that won a bunch of awards, Reclamation and Synesthesia, which are both for free to watch on Vimeo these days. Used to be on Amazon, but Amazon screwed that over, so now you can't watch them for free. But check those out. And I produced those with Roshni Lumino, and she was starring in those, and she is my co-host on Writers Group Therapy, the podcast we co-produce.
And she was your co-guest when we remade Secret of My Success.
Yep, she was.
But today it's just you, and we're remaking The Abyss.
Yes.
A movie I had not ever heard of. It's a movie that, like, I wasn't especially conscious of, but, like, kind of drifted in and out of my periphery every once in a while, like, I should see that, and then it would disappear from my head. I don't
know how old you are, so I'm not sure where you were when it first came out.
So this movie came out in 1989. I was 1.
You were 1. I was in college.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm an old man.
Nah, you're not that old.
It was groundbreaking at the time. It was the visual effects just drove everyone crazy. I mean, the water probe, as it was called, was, the precursor to the T2, Robert Patrick metal Terminator, liquid metal Terminator.
Oh, when you said water probe, I wasn't sure what you were thinking of. Like she refers to it in the movie as a water tentacle.
The water tentacle, yeah, that would mimic their faces and things.
Yeah.
That was basically the precursor of the technology that created the T-1000 in Terminator 2. So
relevant. But honestly, like, even that weird water thing, like, it all looked pretty good, even by today's standards.
No, it holds up. I mean, I watched it again before we came on the show here, and I really think it just holds up all around. I mean, I don't know how they cast it and they wrote it so generically that it seems timeless. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't have a lot of like social references that would place it out of time. The visual effects are great since it's all like done live action. I mean, they did it. They filmed a lot of it in like a nuclear plant in like South Carolina, North Carolina.
Cool, super safe.
Yeah, well, it was being constructed and it was actually never finished.
Oh, okay.
And so they had these giant pools and they covered the top with these tiny black microbeads, so it was pitch dark underneath. And they had a different pool that they did all the miniature work in.
Cool.
So it was all done live action, so it had a lot of felt really real to it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And the scene that we're referencing is Ed Harris has to swim from like one pipe to another underwater, and he has to like wind or open the door.
Yeah, turn
and
the
that's
valves
a scene where he like
stuff and
almost drowned, and it's wild. This movie's crazy, but it's also 4 different movies.
How do you see that?
So there's the whole Russian sub Cold War aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And a submarine goes down, and we think the Russians might have done it. We have to go investigate. There's the marriage drama between Bud Brigman. So his name is literally Rigman, so he's the man on the rig. And Lindsay Brigman, oh, we're getting divorced and we hate each other. And then there's the plot of the military guy losing his mind because they're so far down, and like there's the whole disaster movie perfect storm of everything keeps happening to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then aliens.
It's kind of a subplot, actually, if you ask me. Yeah,
the aliens are absolutely the motivating factor in the movie, but they're not.
They're the cause of what's happening, but they're not the focus of the story.
But they're the story. I think there's a story I think that's going a certain way, and the aliens bump the story, and it takes a turn each time because the sub is going on its own, and then the alien goes by, and they're so distracted, and they're like nothing moves that fast, and then the sub runs into a cliff and goes down.
The power generated by the alien interferes with their system, so whenever the alien's around, electronics go crazy.
Correct, that too. And so navigation was off. They ran into a mountain. And then later in the movie, when this hurricane happens, they're trying to investigate everything. And then Lindsay sees this alien and she's telling everyone about it. And then the military guys think it's the Russians. So they go, and that's why they go and take a nuclear thing from this... A warhead.
A thing.
From yeah. One of them nuclear things you got going on there.
The boomy booms.
Yeah. One of them ones that go... They go and take a nuclear warhead, and because they were out taking the nuclear warhead, because they thought the aliens were Russians, that's why they weren't able to decouple from the crane, and that's what drags them down over the edge.
Right. Of the Marianas Trench, which is the deepest trench in
not the Marianas
Pacific.
Trench, some other name.
It is supposed to be
It's supposed to be, but they call it something different.
It's called the Challenger Deep is the name of the deepest part of the Marianas Trench.
Oh, okay. I thought it was some hypothetical other trench.
No.
It was so
there's the trench and then there's the trench.
Got it. All right. There's the trench and then there's where Pacific Rim happens.
Right. Yeah.
But they only went after that because the aliens showed up and they thought the aliens might have been the Russians. Mm-hmm. And then and then they just disappear. And then the water tentacle comes in, and that's the motivate the
we gotta go kill the aliens.
Well, yeah, the aliens they're all laughing and thinking it's cute, but you all saw that went right for the nuke, right? And so it's well, now we gotta bomb the aliens. It's no, guys, we gotta try to not do that. And then of course the aliens are the ones that save them at the end. They only show up when it is necessary for the plot.
Right. No, they're very limited. It's actually really well done, so they're very secretive. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when you get to the end of the movie, it's a little corny.
They turn down all their secrecy.
The secrecy goes away, and all is revealed, and it's kind of what fine. The heck happened? Yeah.
And then they get to the surface, and Lindsay goes, "What? I don't know how they did it, but we should have been suffering pressure sickness this whole time." And it's yeah, we sure should have. Anyway, guess the aliens did something to us. They sure did.
Yeah, talk about what's the Deus Ex Machina kind of.
Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah,
very much.
Yeah.
So so I have 2 questions about that. First, are they space aliens or Are they earthbound creatures that developed on Earth and just happen to live in a place that it was previously inaccessible to us?
It seems like they were just sitting on the bottom of the ocean. It wasn't like there have been some other movies where like underwater drilling releases the Kraken, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're just down there. So they're just visitors. I think they're aliens from another place, from another world. They're definitely, they've kind of got that...
so you do think they're from another world? You don't think that like they developed simultaneously and they just stayed down there?
No, I think they're definitely their technology and everything. I think they're definitely from another world because... There are many worlds, and we're discovering this with the whole Kepler stuff. There's all these super aquatic planets that are just balls of ocean almost.
Yeah.
So I feel like there definitely could be a race that, developed in a similar situation. And if they were looking for another planet to visit, they'd want to visit one that has a lot of water.
That's true.
So I feel like that's plausible.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And they seem to be, at the end, there's a director's cut that's over like 3 hours long where they get into it more, but they seem to be paying attention to what they're doing, or we're doing. They've got the technology to listen to our TV and our radio and observe us from deep in the ocean. So that makes me think that if they were just an underwater civilization, they would just stay there. They wouldn't have their ship be able to come up to the surface like it did.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that was indicative of, well, this didn't get built here. This doesn't have foundations. Mm-hmm. It's just chilling.
Yeah. Although they do have that translucent, kind of look of a lot of deep sea creatures look like. I think,
but that can be true of anything that develops.
Well, and James Cameron, he's into the whole Ballard Institute where they go underwater in the deep sea submersibles. He's very into that. They did the whole Titanic thing with that. So I'm sure that was part of the design, was we're going to make this look kind of like these deep sea creatures that live in high pressure that have kind of translucent skins and bioluminescence and stuff like that.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough. I do enjoy it. Like, I still think the aliens were designed very, very well. But then my next question kind of starts with the statement of, so I watched Jaws for the first time last weekend.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never seen it.
That's right, you don't like scary movies. So.
Yeah, and even with, like, The Abyss, like, there's some tension, like, it starts scarier than it ends up being. Like, the moment when they're investigating the sub, and it's just super tense, and you're seeing from the perspective of inside the helmet, and you keep expecting something to come out around the helmet. I was, anyway. I was having a hard time, but then it, like, eased in, and we actually got into, like, the disaster movie story of everything, and it was better, so it was just really that scene. And then they're undersea and a crab crawls out of a dude's mouth. It was super gross.
Yeah, but that's nature for the most part.
Yeah, I know. Nature's gross.
Yeah.
But in Jaws, and in a lot of alien movies, you're getting hints and hints and hints about these aliens. And then, like, it's like the horror movie trope of don't reveal the monster until you're ready. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, it was that same thing of don't reveal the monster until you're ready. Like, we didn't get to see the alien until we were ready, and it was the end of the movie, and then we saw them. It felt almost like a reverse horror movie in that this isn't the monster, they're actually here to save us. And I genuinely found that refreshing because normally it's, if aliens did visit us and they watched our media, they'd see we were not a fan. But this is the one that'd be like, look, we think you're great and we'll save us all.
Well, yeah, and that's, if you do watch the director's cut, the storm that they're experiencing on the surface, the hurricane, is the aliens are supposedly creating that. And at the end, when Bud Bergman is talking to the aliens about, hey, we're okay, we're not that bad, the aliens are actually in the process of creating gigantic tsunamis to bury the big cities of the world, like all over the planet. Man. And there's this crazy scene where you see these giant tidal waves and put like over the city almost, and they freeze while Bud's talking to the aliens and talks them out of like destroying humanity. So that is like a really like dark.
That's a different movie.
It's a very different movie.
I'm glad the version of the movie I saw did not have that.
Yeah, they're kind of more passive in the theatrical release.
Yeah, I think that's better.
They're not as judgmental.
Well, yeah, because like you can even see that when they're going around and their technology kind of like shuts down all of our technology. Like, they're not doing any of this intentionally.
It's just an incompatibility. They're AC, we're DC kind of thing.
Something like that. But like even when they're going by, it like shuts down this. Or Lindsay, when she can't really take pictures of them because like her camera gets shut off or something. And which of course leads to the question of when Bud's way down at the bottom of the Mariana Trench later, and his suit still works to send signal back somehow.
They have their ways.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's something I would adjust to be like, you need to change the technology and make it like Morse code and do like ham radio, which can function without electricity kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I would do instead. But like, regardless, it feels like it's unintentional. And as they are becoming more aware of us, they're like, oh, well, what's going on here? What's happening? The idea of them being down there and then planning on wiping out humanity, that changes the entire context of the movie. I don't like that.
Yeah. The location and the timing of it seemed too coincidental.
That too.
Yeah.
Because everything else is like, it's a coincidence, but it's not an intentional coincidence. It's not, oh, this disaster happened to happen right as they're about to wipe us all out. It's a good thing love saved us all. In their terrible, terrible relationship.
Yeah.
Because they're going to continue getting divorced, right?
Movie relationships that happen in the movies never end up great. They never show you like 2 weeks later, when they're like, this was a mistake,
Yeah.
It was the heat of the moment.
Well, also, like, there's that whole thing where they hate each other at the beginning of the movie. So the Bud Brigman and Lizzie Brigman hate each other at the beginning of the movie. And then at the movie, she's like, I'm so glad you're okay, Bud Brigman. And he says, I'm so glad you're okay, Mrs. Brigman. And then they make
There's
out.
kind of an assumption there. Like,
it's an assumption, and it's also a really possessive assumption.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the last line of the movie. Mm-hmm. Not, holy shit, we're standing on top of a giant alien thing. Look, I'm glad you're okay, but what is all this? They need to be freaking out more is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, and there's the whole, he wants to save her when she drowns. It's very emotional. I mean,
yeah, that I get.
Those are all,
on board for that.
Yeah, and they're super strong touch points, you know. And really what the movie's all about is just survival, It's like, it's really a survival story.
It very much is a disaster movie. Like, a few months ago, for the first time, I watched Towering Inferno.
Oh, my mother's favorite, actually.
Oh, is it really?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. It's just one thing after another going wrong, but it's also people making the wrong decisions. And also, especially from an outside perspective, watching it now, seeing other wrong decisions being made that aren't even being commented on in the movie. And it's just people who, because of power, because of stupidity, because of ignorance, are continuing to make these bad decisions and pushing them further and further and further into the disaster until finally someone is able to get through and save them all. Some of them. Whatever. And this very much felt like that. It's a disaster movie. Like, they're about to they're at the end of their shift, and the military comes in and says, this hurricane is coming. We have to send someone in to see if there's anyone we can save in the submarine. We'll pay you triple. Fine, we'll do it. And then that happens. Then as they're trying to save themselves, they encounter what the military thinks is a nuclear sub, and so they go out and they explore for too long, which means that they can't uncouple from the crane, which means the crane drags them down. And it's just like one thing after another after another. It just keeps being more and more of a disaster. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I would definitely qualify this as a disaster movie.
Yeah, and when you factor in the aliens, it's almost like, going back to like, it's different, more, you said it was like 4 movies or whatever.
4 movies, yeah.
Yeah, because it starts off more like, you think it's going to be more like the alien, underwater, horror movie, kind of like Sphere or Leviathan, Deep Star 6, you probably didn't see because you don't like horror movies, but...
Right, I mean, it's also, this movie's called The Abyss.
Yeah.
The Abyss isn't a positive name.
No. In the end, it turns out being more like The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah.
Where it's, the aliens are here to kind of correct our mistakes, so to speak, almost.
And not even that. It doesn't feel like, in the theatrical version, it just feels like they're here. They don't really necessarily care about us, but they kind of learn to care about us over the course of the movie.
Right. They're more concerned about the planet and the animals and stuff.
It always, there are no animals in this movie. This movie kind of struck me as, exploratory. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of what I found interesting about it, is we are the untamed wilds that the aliens were exploring. And so then they go out of our way to kind of, realize, oh, well, these dumb monkeys are about to kill themselves. Let's save them. We can do that.
Yeah.
We're all right.
Yeah.
We can get some air in our spaceship, regardless of the fact that that's not how air works. They part the water, so air must be there.
There is oxygen and hydrogen in water, so...
That I will give you.
Yes.
It's very, very flammable.
Yes. It will explode.
It's an interesting movie, and yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I think I had been leading towards a question, but I no longer remember what that question was.
Well, I was thinking the whole Cold War thing, like if we're going to remake this.
Yeah, when do you want to set this?
That's the thing, is I would update it if I was going to, I like to do things contemporarily.
I agree.
Yeah.
And especially because we're still kind of sort of unspoken Cold War with Russia.
Right. Well, I mean, I was thinking updating it, and first of all, the underwater oil drilling rig is kind of passé. Like, we've already had major accidents with oil rigs recently.
Yeah, but they still keep trying.
This is supposed
to be the safest one.
Oh, right, yeah. But I was thinking it could be something interesting, like even like the whole nuclear Cold War stuff. If it was something like those cables that run under the ocean that carry the internet or whatever.
Yeah.
One of those gets cut, or something. So they send the submersible down to try to fix it, and they think it's China doing it, so the military gets involved.
Yeah.
And and then there's the abyss, and I feel like you could kind of work it some way like that way.
How about this? How about we have this big ship be designed to be able to move around, but it's supposed to be going in to tap the geothermal energy of the planet itself?
Mm-hmm. I actually had that thought too. Geothermal was, because you would go deep.
Yeah. Those
thermal vents and things would be another source of energy.
And deep on the ocean floor, that's where things tend to live.
Mm-hmm.
And they designed this big thing because it was going to go after like a really big geothermal thing, and then they're going to start filling it in. But of course, there's already something living there.
But that's actually kind of the plot of the movie Underwater, which was a movie a year or two ago.
Oh yeah,
with Kristen Stewart, and it's a really big underwater complex that's a drilling thing, and they drill into something that releases real monsters. It's more horror. Yeah. It's more like Chutlu, like you're talking like giant kaiju kind of crazy stuff, and that's just a disaster movie that just goes in one direction. It's just disaster all the way to the end.
Well, let's do a turn on it then, and that's what Lindsay designed this ship to do, but the only way she could get it funded was with military funding. Mm-hmm. And so the military, there is no nuclear sub that goes down. The military hid nukes in the thing, so that way they have some sort of underwater missile launching thing that's untrackable and traceable, because it's so deep radar can't go that far.
Exactly. But the missiles can reach anywhere they need to because of where it's located, like in the ocean or something like that.
And because it's so deep, you can have them inflate in such a way that just like being propelled they get propelled so fast out of the ocean that will get them
airborne
and and that way they can save a bunch of fuel, and it's a really efficient way of deploying nukes.
It's a secret, nuclear launch base is what it is.
Yeah, so literally it was designed to harness energy and be something that would bring about world peace, but it's being kind of taken over by military and turned into a weapon, which is exactly the sort of thing it's not supposed to be.
Right, and there's this one module that no one's ever supposed to go in because that's the secret one.
Yeah.
And everybody, is curious.
And Lindsay had designed it to specifically be something but they had changed her blueprints to design it to be this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't even know. She's like, "Oh, this isn't what I designed. These aren't my schematics."
So when they're impacted by whatever the aliens, power sucking thing is that puts them out of communications, that's when the military comes in and says, "Hey, what's going on down there?"
Yeah, basically, because it's the military.
Yeah.
If there's one thing they like, it's knowing where their nukes are at all times, definitely forever. None of them have ever gone missing, not even once.
Right. We hope.
No, some have gone missing. It's a whole separate thing. Don't worry about it.
That's a James Bond movie.
No, it really happened. Try not to think about it.
Yeah. Try.
Yeah.
Try.
Well, if it goes off here, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Put up our hands and shout, "No." That's what I would do. I mean, that's even what Ed Harris did, is at some, like, I am going to drown. There's only one suit and you're the stronger swimmer. I'm going to drown. You're going to get me back because the ice cold water is going to save me, and then you're going to bring me back. He said, "I hate this." She's like, "I know, it's the only thing." So then she drowns, and then he wastes time by shouting "no." Like,
yeah, there were other people that picked on that whole thing. Is like, why didn't they just start swimming back first before she drowned?
I mean, that also, because you don't want her flailing or whatever. That's a scary. Yes.
I bring up the point is usually those kinds of submersibles, you have to fill them with water first before you can open the door.
Right. Like you need to wait for the pressure to equalize.
Pressure. So I feel like that's kind of, it's definitely done for drama.
Yes, but it is, but like it was filling up with water. So when it fully filled up with water, she drowned, they went.
I don't cut that scene. I keep that. I like that.
Yeah, I keep that scene too. Like, I thought that was really dark, really interesting, and it was very disaster movie of, like, this science person saying, so this sucks. This is the only, like, you are definitely the stronger swimmer. You can get me back. I'm going to drown. There's a good chance I'm about to die. Mm-hmm. Good luck. Yeah. And it's like, this is literally our only move. And that is a move that it's like, I don't know. That's so dark, but it's also really good. As
far as the whole resuscitating her too, I get so tired of this trope of, it's how long do you drag that out for? And they take a long time.
I would cut that down.
They cut, I don't know if that was a 5-minute scene or more. It was...
they literally, like, she's dead. Okay. No, she's not! And then they do all the same thing again, and now it works. I'm like, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, I don't want to bring a doctor in here and talk about how hypothermia works and what have you, but, I do love the fact that he basically yells at her, calls her a bitch, and then that's when she wakes up. Like, I think she should wake up and say, smack him and say, don't ever call me that.
We're not doing that.
No, I think we should probably...
That's a little cartoony.
Yeah.
But I would cut that scene down because I think we could do the Pulp Fiction thing of like the defibrillators not working, CPR's not working, nothing's working, and then finally the guy shows up with a shot of adrenaline, like does the adrenaline thing, and that restarts her heart. She vomits up all the salt water.
Yeah.
And so basically resuscitation. I would cut that down and then do the adrenaline shot thing, and like that's what kind of brings her back. Vomits up seawater.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think the emotional part of that scene is the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that's basically what I would change there. What other changes do we need to make to more modernize this? Because I agree, I think it needs to be set now as opposed to 32 years ago.
Well, robotics is so big now, I wonder if you have to figure out to make this movie plausible that the things that they're doing are important, that they have to do it personally, not using robotics. Because, in this movie, they had a lot of robotic arms, and they had, what do you call them? Not drones, but, underwater drones, basically.
Underwater things.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I was kind of stirring over in my mind is how does this become plausible that we can't, that we have to send people down there? We
already have a reason that's kind of built into the movie of, for some reason, electronics stop working. Mm-hmm. Whenever it gets closer to this. And so you have to send it with people because people do continue working, but the electronics stop and we don't know why. So people have to go in and investigate it and kind of like report back.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's plumbing and things. Geothermal has a lot of plumbing.
Right, but I meant like the aliens have been shutting up, like they're unintentionally shutting off the electronics of the drones and stuff. And
I was thinking instead of a hurricane, what if if you're going to go with geothermal, which I thought of, what if we get into things like, underground earthquakes?
Yeah, I think absolutely.
And underground volcanoes and lava, and those kinds of threats would be something different we could throw into the movie that would, the story would be similar, but we'd have to have some other threats.
Yeah, I don't think they should necessarily be investigating a downed nuclear sub.
Right.
I think that there's enough stuff on the ocean floor that we should be seeing and investigating, and like we don't interact with any sea life down there other than the aliens and the one crab that crawls out of a dude. Mm-hmm. Like, and I think there's got to be weird stuff all over the place, especially because James Cameron loves that. And I think what we need are, like, especially from Lindsay, like a more environmental perspective, and then from the military, it's like, they're just fish. It doesn't matter. Get them out of the way.
There is that whole science of underwater military exercises with sonar and things that the environmental side has claimed that it endangers, dolphins and whales and those sorts of fish that use echolocation. Yeah. So there's something we could be said about that, where you could have that as the other side of the coin.
That could even be why the military went down there, is because they specifically were going to do that kind of exercise, theoretically. And that's why Lindsay doesn't want to be down there with them in the first place, is because she's deeply opposed to it. Of course, they're actually down there to double check the nuclear stuff. Mm-hmm. the exercise is kind of just a front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that reminds me of the movie The Core,
where
I
just gave you free long distance calling.
Yes. Yeah.
What? For life? That's all I remember from the trailer. I never saw the movie.
No, the government creates some sort of weapon that sends a pulse through the earth to attack their enemies.
Yeah.
And in the process, they stop the center of the earth the core of the earth from spinning and creating.
So they need a hacker to go down and hack the earth.
They have to hack the earth. No, well, that's part of the story, but yeah,
it is.
But that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother episode you could do. The Core that's another great sci-fi corny.
I mean, that is a good corny movie to do at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Remake
but hey, it's got
Core.
Stanley Tucci. You can't go wrong.
But okay, so that's kind of like our impetus. Like what the machine's doing down there. How important is the marital drama to you?
I actually, when I was thinking about the casting, which we'll get into later, what if they didn't have to be, a husband and wife? It could be father and estranged daughter or something like that even.
Oh, I mean, I'd cast them similarly aged. I could have them...
I did both.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But hypothetically, I don't have a problem with that. The thing about Ed Harris in the movie is that he has looked 35 his entire life. But in the movie, he was 38.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was 38 when they were making this. And he doesn't look it at all. But, like, I also cast someone in their 30s. Because it's, like, a working professional that's sort of, like, not young, but youngish kind of person who would kind of go and be on an underwater rig for months at a time. And I think the strain on their relationship is that they both keep volunteering to do these long-term underwater assignments, and they keep not seeing each other.
Mm.
And finally, they're like, we'll go on one of these together, and if this doesn't work, we're breaking up.
So it's a marriage therapy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
it's like they because they've spent so much time apart, they don't know if they're actually good. Like, I would make them fiancés. And they don't know if they actually want to go through with the marriage because they've been apart so long they don't actually know how they would function together. So this is kind of like moving in together, but on this underwater vessel just to see if they kill each other when they are living together. Because up to this point, they've never done that.
It's their only cohabitation
Yeah.
is the deep trench of the ocean is where we're going to see if we can stand being together. Okay.
Yes, and everyone should make fun of them for it because it's hilarious.
That would be great. That's a good comedy through line too.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, because I tend to cast people who at least have an ability to do some sort of comedy. And even James Cameron movies, they're not so dry. Like, there's a dude with a rat in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the best character.
Hippie.
Yeah. No, that's not true. I really like Hippie, and I really liked One Night.
One Night, Hippie, and what's the other one? Catfish. Those are the three.
Those are the three I did.
Supporting characters that that really make the movie, I think.
So for Hippie, what kind of animal companion do you want Hippie to have in our version? Still a rat?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think about that.
Because theoretically, the rat in the movie that we saw was a real rat, and then they kind of like sort of drown the rat. It's super weird and gross, and I did not like that.
That was a real thing.
Yeah, I know it was.
Yeah, and they got in trouble with PETA for it.
Yeah, because it's fucked up.
Yeah, and there's a story about that is they cut away from the rat while it's underwater in the little oxygen water tank because it pooped.
Great.
It was so freaked out, it pooped.
Good, makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if we would pull that off again.
Yeah, I don't want to do that because I think our animal will, especially now, largely be CGI, especially to avoid PETA. But like, we're underwater. We need weird animals. Why not a sugar glider?
A sugar glider?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a picture. These are pets that people legitimately have. They're very strange.
I was thinking lemur or something, or ferret.
Lemurs are fun.
Ferrets can make their way around things pretty easily.
That's true. Ooh, yeah, and you can send a ferret in the pipes.
Yeah.
Sugar gliders are these things.
Oh, yeah. That's similar style of
animal. They're smaller, though.
That's a nice, unique animal, yeah.
I mean, it's also like, if they're going to be living in these pods for months, Hippie can be someone who just took shift after shift after shift, and he's just like, he's been the person who's been on the rig the longest. He's not the oldest, but he's been there the longest, and he's customized his space the most. And at this point, he's like, I've lived down here for so long that I don't even think I can reacclimate to the surface.
Oh, right.
Like, I've been at this pressure. I feel like I have to stay at this pressure, and I feel stuck. So he's like just been building out his whole menagerie of pets. So he's got a sugar glider. He's got a ferret. He's got a rat.
Yeah.
Because they're the things that he can live with, because you can't bring a dog down there. You can't bring... But, like, rodents, sure, why not? And they're rescues from other pressure experimentation scientists that had done on the rig that aren't down there anymore, but he rescued them all. And now
I see.
He saves and takes care of them, because this is all backstory that's not necessary for the movie. But I like it in my head, because, like, that they talk about how it takes them 8 hours to adjust to the pressure when they go down, but it's going to take them how long to adjust when they get back? 3 weeks? 2 weeks?
Something like that, yeah.
Something crazy, which is a lie, but it's a lot. And because that's the other thing, like, intense pressure. And that's why they have this oxygen-rich water or whatever that apparently you can breathe. And I don't want to try, but I also kind of want to try.
I have no desire to try. I've never been in a situation to really test it, but I think I'm kind of claustrophobic. So this movie it's kind of intense that way. Anytime I can't even snorkel. I can't have that regulator in my mouth. I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I gag. I'm like.
Okay, so what's something that would freak you out that we should put in this movie?
Insects of some sort.
I mean,
those giant like underwater spiders things.
Oh God. I mean, we'd need to have more underwater creatures. We're this deep. We need to be seeing some anglerfish in here somewhere.
Yeah, I think the environment they filmed in limited their ability to do that. But
and I don't think, and obviously, I don't think they should be real, because I don't think you should mess with stuff that lives that far down and would not be able to handle human intervention. But
there's nothing to say that the aliens couldn't have brought some species with them. You know, so there could be some alien...
Like the alien pets?
Alien pets, yeah.
I don't want the aliens to be more in this movie than they are in the movie than it is currently.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to see an alien out walking its space dog. Like, Marvin the Martian's cool and all, and I like Marvin the Martian's dog, whose name escapes me. But, like, I don't need that in this.
Okay.
Like, I feel like the aliens... I feel like you got to be really careful with the aliens and do... I think James Cameron was very smart with his use of aliens.
Yeah, I do think that. I still feel like the ending needs work, though. Like, how do you wrap it all up so that people aren't going, what? You know, that's always the problem. When you introduce something sci-fi or mysterious, and then you make it so you have to explain it, you're either unsatisfied or complete disbelief. So I've been toiling with how to, what to do with those aliens to make them believable in some respect.
I think the aliens are believable up until the point that they unhook their entire civilization in order to save the ship. Because A, I didn't think their ship could do that, and B, that seemed a little wild.
Yeah, it seems like, why would they bother?
Yeah, like, I think that...
Or wouldn't they have, like, a smaller ship they could just send out, like, a tow truck?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. Like, I don't think we should ever completely understand the aliens, because I think that's one of the things that makes alien movies good, and this is going to come up when I remake Avatar next episode. But one of the things is that I don't think we're supposed to understand them because they're aliens. And so what I think would be interesting is if we have a moment where we see multiples of the aliens together, and then the one that saved Bud Brigman breaks off and then goes and brings Bud back, but then the rest of the aliens leave. And that alien elected to stay behind in order to, and that it's that one alien that kind of saves them all.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, it elected to die in order to save all the humans, and the rest of the aliens leave. So now all these people have this experience, and they're like, we did this thing, we saw this thing. We have no evidence.
Right, the alien kind of dissolves at the end or something, and...
Or gets them up and then just kind of like drifts back down in the water.
Ah, okay.
But in doing that, they also now, because they got saved and the aliens left, their technology is no longer there, so now we can start sending robots and everything to start harnessing the geothermal energy.
Right, they moved on.
Yeah.
And are, so we can do what we need to do. It's like, so they understand what we're trying to do is good, and that their presence was part of the problem.
Yeah, and like even so, like it would be interesting if they could see the different forms of technology that got spread that people keep sending. The drones, the geothermal energy thing, the energy tapper, harvester, whatever, and the nuke. And because I think there would absolutely be people whose first instinct would be, I don't understand them, let's blow them up. And I feel like, especially if someone's going through psychosis, Like they will be able to investigate the technology because they're aliens and they understand those sorts of things, and say, "Oh, okay, this dude just saved all of our lives. We need to give them a little bit more respect. Let's save their lives too as a thank you, life debt or whatever." And but if they have the power to kill us all, we need to go.
Yeah.
And so that way, there's also the cost of, obviously they have their advanced technology, but because humans tried to kill them, we'll save their lives, but we're not going to help. We're not going to give help them.
We'll save these humans, but not
Correct.
all humans. That's on them.
That's kind of the message I want. And I don't think any of that should be expressly said, but I feel like that's kind of the message we need to go with.
Yeah, it feels like a little more like Arrival.
Yeah.
Yeah, the aliens, except not so, those aliens were like hovering over cities and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a little more obvious. This would be more subtle. But those aliens had a similar attitude towards humanity.
Right.
It was almost like a testing kind of thing.
Exactly. And I don't even see this necessarily as testing. It's more, we didn't even register because they are so far, and someone might be walking around and not noticing the fish. Mm-hmm. The aliens are walking around and not noticing us. Right. Until they realize we almost killed them. Right.
They're down there at the bottom of the trench. They could have been there for 500 years, for all we know. And just now noticed us because we got close enough.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically the idea I want to go for. Mm-hmm. They are space aliens, but they're on a completely different timetable. And they're kind of doing their own thing. They were also harnessing geothermal energy because that's how they were powering their ship.
Right. Which brings us back to keeping it as a disaster movie about people surviving and those people and their relationships and what they have to do to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Being the main focus of the movie.
Yes, which I think is kind of what this movie needs to be about. I think you have your movies about investigating aliens and doing all these sorts of things, but I don't think that's what this movie is. Mm-hmm. If I had my druthers, I would say theoretically you could take the aliens out, but then it wouldn't be the Abyss.
Right.
Then it would be like Deepwater Horizon or some such. Mm-hmm. And I think, especially if it's a remake of a James Cameron movie, you have to have the hook that makes it a James Cameron movie of things on the bottom of the ocean that are beyond our comprehension. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. No, I'm totally cool. I'm on board with that.
Okay. What else do we need to do to talk about for the remake? Like, what else do we need to kind of make this our own? Is there anything you want to talk about in terms of any of the characters? Like, is there anything do you still want to have like the deepwater underwater psychosis? Because I feel like that almost excuses the behavior, and I feel like it should just be he's taking it too far.
I agree that was more of a almost giving him an excuse for going crazy as opposed to just being crazy, being aggressive.
Right.
And I think that's part of humanity, not necessarily because we have underwater sickness, but because that's who we are.
Yeah, and I think that's even more apparent today. Mm-hmm. It's this person who's just so afraid of things he doesn't understand that he will kill them, himself, and everyone around him in order to try to make them go away. Because he doesn't understand them.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Of just like this deep-seated prejudice against the not understood. Yeah, I agree with that.
I think the pressure of the situation will drive the behavior, not the pressure of the pressure.
Yeah. I do think pressure sickness is a thing, and I even think like what they're talking about in the movie, I think that might be true. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we should use that as an excuse. I don't think that should be the this dude's going crazy. He's cutting himself with a knife under the table. He's off kilter. Like, I want him to be completely sane, but still making these same decisions because he's just a bad person. He's
military, but he's calling the shots, and
power tripping.
Yeah, it's just power tripping. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of where I think we need to be. There's the interactions with the surface and stuff, but we don't. What's crazy is that the people I really recognize in this movie that I was like, oh my gosh, we're in like that surface vessel.
Chris Elliott.
Yeah. The mayor from, it was the mayor from Schitt's Creek, and also Kelso from Scrubs.
Right.
And I was like, what's going on with these two? And then they're just like nothing characters.
It's funny when you look back at movies from, long, back in the 80s or whatever, that were decently sized, movies that had actors that didn't yet, hadn't yet made it, but then, 5-10 years later, so now they're big names, but you're like, they were in that movie as some, deckhand?
Well, the crazy is that Chris Elliott's the mayor from Schitt's Creek, right?
No, Chris Elliott was Bendix. He was the guy who just going, look over there, every time there was something to look at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was him.
It was very weird. But, like, he hasn't aged at all. But, like, it's... Yeah.
Oh, maybe that was him. Oh, yeah, Schitt's Creek. Yeah, I think that was him. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that was him. Yeah.
And
Bendix is the character's name.
Yes. But, like, he looks the exact same, basically.
Mm-hmm. He's one of the few people that people mistake me for sometimes.
Oh, yeah?
When they say I look like an actor.
That's fun. That's a good one to get.
Yeah, it's Chris Elliott, Paul Giamatti, sometimes Seinfeld.
Those three people look very different.
And, well, it depends on my haircut.
Oh, fair enough.
And Stewart, the guy from the comic book shop on Big Bang Theory.
I can see that one a little bit.
I get those a lot.
It's like I said, all those are very, very different, but cool, I guess.
Or I just look like someone they know, but it's no one famous.
Yeah. That, I think, is the bones of our movie. We kind of like have the sense of like what we would do differently in our version. I don't necessarily need the people on the surface. I gave like a person on the surface because I think they need to have someone who's like trying to communicate with them and like like to indicate that we've lost touch with other people who are available. So I have a surface person, but it's just like a military surface person. I don't really care. But what else do we need for our movie? Or you ready to just get into casting?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay.
So Wordcursion is the app that I've been developing for a couple of years now. It's actually available on iOS and Android. I created as supposedly the no more boring word games word game. It's supposed to be an exciting, more dynamic word game. So if you like things like Scrabble and Boggle, and even games like Othello or Stratego or Risk, it's kind of a combination, like a game smoothie of all those cool strategy and word games.
It is Scrabble meets Stratego. Like, I didn't think about that, but that is exactly right. Because I've played the game. It's super fun. And you basically have your words on your side, and you're slowly trying to make your way and take over the board.
You're supposed to dominate the board. So you've got a grid of 10 by 10 letters. Dominate the word domination. Yeah. You by creating words, you take over blocks of the board, and you try to get to the 51 is half the board. Oh, just over half the board is the winner. And you can steal blocks away from your opponent. You can use power-ups to rearrange the letters. It's pretty dynamic and fun, and I'm having a really good time with it, and it's coming along really well. And it seems like people
and it's called
Wordcursion. Wordcursion, yeah.
And it's available now on the iOS and Android store?
Yep, Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Perfect. That's awesome. And it is genuinely fun. If you're the sort of person who likes word games, you will like Wordcursion. It's super fun. Okay, so for casting, obviously we need to start with Bud and Lindsay Brigman, right?
Yes.
Do you want to start with Bud or do you want to start with Lindsay?
Bud's my first one.
All right, let's start with Bud.
I went big. I went with the big three. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, or Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, man. Well, I hate all of those.
Do you? Oh.
Yeah.
I went big.
You did. But I don't dislike them because they're bad choices. I dislike them because of, like, things they've done. Like, Mark Wahlberg's not a good person. Plus, he is kind of, like, the person they go to for, like, the Deepwater Horizon movies.
Yeah, he's already done the underwater stuff.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck did the oil rig thing in...
Did he?
What was the Bruce Willis asteroid movie?
Deep Impact? Or Armageddon?
Armageddon. It was Armageddon. He was the oil drill.
Oh, was he?
Rig worker, oil rig worker in that.
It's the unfortunate thing about Ben Affleck and Matt Damon also is that they're both a little bit tainted in that they've just been too powerful and too white for so long. They don't really see other problems. The also thing is that like you also went older. Like Mark Wahlberg is 40s or something, right?
I guess he is kind of older now. Yeah.
And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are both 50s easily.
Are they? Gosh.
They've got to be.
Yeah. You think about how he looks in the Batman stuff now. He looks pretty old.
Matt Damon age. Matt Damon is 50.
Okay. Yeah, it might be a little on the old. See, I always think Ed Harris always looks
That's the thing.
pretty old.
But he was 38. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, he's 70 now, which means he was 38. So here's my crazy coincidence. Is I went with an actor who most people know from Us. They know from Black Panther. But I was really impressed with him in this movie I saw called 9 Days, which is this movie I saw a year and a half ago before the pandemic when I went to Sundance. It was the only movie I saw at Sundance, but he is phenomenally good in it. And I've been trying to, I've been telling people about this movie since then because I think that it deserves so much praise and accolades and everything. And so I've been trying to tell people over and over and over about this movie, but, it's been impossible to see. Until yesterday. When it was released in theaters.
Oh.
It was released in theaters, a limited run now, and I think it's going to go wide in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. The movie's called 9 Days, and the actor is Winston Duke.
Winston Duke. Okay.
He is
I like it.
the leader of the monkey tribe in Black Panther.
Yeah.
And Us. And he is... And so there are a lot of people who think that's all he is, but he's not. He's this really compelling, dramatic guy. And in 9 days, he plays with Shakespeare, and he's just very, very good. But at the same time, he's still imposing and a big guy. So he's the sort of person you can see on, like, an oil tanker kind of thing. Like, he's the sort of person you'd want to have, but at the same time, like, has these really good hidden depths.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a good resume here, and he actually was Mark Wahlberg. He was in that movie Spencer Unlimited or whatever it was on Netflix. No?
I don't know it, but I believe you.
But he was the father in Us?
I think so, yeah.
He was really kind of, I want to say, portly in that a little bit. He wasn't...
He's also portly in 9 days. Like, he can go back and forth between being, like, big... Like, it's hard to be muscly.
I think it's funny because, underwater stuff is, like, already claustrophobic to begin with. And you're going to put this big guy in a cramped space. I think that's kind of cool.
It is, but you also need someone who's strong and is able to, like, handle the machinery. And if something's breaking, he can brute force pull a door open.
He could literally, hold the ceiling up with his shoulders.
Not that, but yeah, like, there's that moment in the movie when Ed Harris is trying to catch a door that's, like, trying to seal him in and drown. And it only saves because he happens to, like, still be wearing his ring, which I thought was fun.
But you're saying he could just open it.
Well,
he would just...
Well, but I don't believe Ed Harris could, like, pull the door back open. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that Winston Duke could. Mm-hmm. Like, if he had to, like, and he just had to, like, brute force it. But I feel like that's why you put someone like that on these sorts of things is it's cramped spaces. And as long as the person's not claustrophobic, I feel like you want someone who can handle the machinery and the muscles of it. But in 9 days, like, he is also very small and like, he plays very small. But I like it, especially because Mark Wahlberg is also 50 years old.
I love the idea of having a running gag where he's always like, duck, like, watch your, he's always like watching his head, like,
he's the big guy. Like, there's the whole tall people who slouch just because they're too tall for the world. And I also don't think Winston Duke is as tall as that. Winston Duke is 34 years old. Oh, he's 6'5". I take it back. He is 6'5".
He's pretty tall.
But still.
Okay.
But yeah, that's who I thought.
I'm totally on board with that.
Cool. Yeah. Then you went first for Bud, so let me tell you who I have for Lindsay.
Okay.
My Lindsay's actually a few years older than my Bud. I think she's 38 or 39. And I wanted someone who... The funny thing is, I didn't do this intentionally, but we also kind of know her from the Marvel world. Someone who's incredibly capable, very smart, very...
I think we picked the same person.
Did we both pick Haley Atwell?
Oh, no, we didn't.
Oh, who'd you have?
I have Gugu Mbatha-Raw. She played Renslayer on Loki.
Oh. Ooh.
She'd be a good match for Winston.
She would. I love Haley Atwell. I like her a lot.
I love Haley Atwell, too, yeah.
But I've definitely used Haley Atwell before. And I think Gugu Mbatha-Raw... Oh, that's good. Let's go with her.
Yeah.
Mbatha.
I was going for something. She was actually in the Paradox, Cloverfield Paradox as well.
Oh, yeah?
So she's done the sci-fi action stuff,
That's awesome.
In multiple.
Yeah, I mean, she's so good in Loki, and she's just a phenomenal actress. And I don't know. I think she would also be a really cool and interesting, like, designer. I mean, she went to Oxford. This actress went to Oxford, and she began acting in British television. Both Haley Atwell and Gugu Mbatha-Raw come from the British Isles. That's fun. I like it. Right. That said, Haley Atwell is great, and I love her, and she would also have been good at this role.
Haley Atwell can almost do anything. I would consider her for any role.
Yes.
So.
And part of me had considered doing a gender swap on Bud Brigman, and I think in other contexts that kind of works. However, I think there's just a notion of just dudes doing the manual labor kind of thing. Not that women can't, but it's like, this didn't feel like the movie to kind of put that in.
No.
Not this movie. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not saying they can't. But in this particular context, this felt a little bit like a dude movie. Mm-hmm. But at the time, The Abyss as it's made, with the entire ship being designed by Lindsay, I was on board with that. I'm like, that's great. She's in charge. They're kind of annoyed with her, but, like, they like her. She's still... Like, they never at any point diminish her capabilities. Mm-hmm. Like, the most sexist thing they do in this movie is the moment when Lieutenant Coffey goes, I've been waiting to do this whole time. And he, like, takes duct tape and puts it over her mouth. And it's like, you sexist piece of shit.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I'm sure everyone cringes when they watch that.
Yeah, it's really bad. But it's also like, oh, okay, you're just a monster. And
You have no redeeming qualities.
yeah,
So.
I wouldn't necessarily make our Lindsay as catty, but like I think she should absolutely be taking control and like Gugu Mbatha-Raw does in Loki, and does very, very well. So I think excellent casting, good choice. Let's talk about Lieutenant Coffey.
Okay.
Who'd you have?
Gabriel Luna.
That's funny.
He was the T. I don't know what number it was. He was the Terminator in Terminator: Dark Fate.
I'm aware of that. That's going to come back for us for reasons.
I feel like he has the ability to go from, he can be the military, the straightforward, very, but he could also turn darker and go on the evil side.
We're probably going to go with him. I went with Stephen Yeun.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
I love Stephen Yeun.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to go with Gabriel Luna just because I've seen him used less.
I think Stephen Young's just too nice. I like him too much.
That's part of why I went with him, is because I want him to kind of be like, yeah, I'm just this guy. Sure, I'm the military, but don't even worry about it. And like kind of like do that bait and switch of like, oh, now he's showing his true colors.
Yeah,
but I think Gabriel Luna is better than that. I think that's a better choice. I want to go with Gabriel Luna.
Okay. I will not argue with choosing my choice.
Especially because I looked at him for another role and I'm like, oh no, he's too good and too confident.
I do love Stephen. I would love to do something with Stephen Yeun because I love Minari, and that was,
yeah, like Minari, Walking Dead, Okja, like everything he's done. He's phenomenal. But he's kind of A-list now, and I always love doing someone who's slightly less. And here's the thing, I loved Terminator Dark Fate.
I did too. Like,
I thought it was great. I thought it played with the world and the lore and everything so well. Like, I could go on and on about Terminator Dark Fate. And I might in a future episode.
I wanted to see it so bad I made it my birthday outing.
Ooh.
Because it came out like right around my birthday.
That's a good birthday outing.
Yeah. That was before the pandemic.
Yes. Cool. That brings us to Catfish DeVry?
Catfish DeVry.
You went first for the last one.
So
it's
your
my
turn.
So for Catfish, I wanted kind of like the silent bearded friend.
Okay.
That's all he is. That's great.
Not so silent, but yeah.
Silent, but picks his moments.
Yeah.
He's not silent, but if he doesn't need to, he uses the exact right amount of words. And that's why Brendan Hunt, Coach Beard from Ted Lasso, is it's a 1-for-1, but I'm a fan. And I think he's clearly the oldest person on the rig, and he's just like, this is what we gotta do, we'll get it done. And I also love him, and he's great. And he's also been in Key and Peele. He was in Bless This Mess. He's a good comedic actor, but he's also so good on Ted Lasso.
He's totally got the same look.
He's got the same look.
You would almost mistake him for.
I know.
For
he's
the
very
original
very 1-for-1.
Yeah,
But I also really like him.
No, I get that. That works for me. That actually, I would not say no to that.
But who do you have?
Who did I have? Bill Burr, the comedian. He is gruff.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice.
He did a stint on The Mandalorian as a recurring character, and he actually had the chops for it. I felt like he was good. And, he's kind of the counter. I feel like the sarcasm and stuff, he'd be a little more brusque.
I think that's a good choice. And I think for this role, he's also good. He feels very much like he'd be in this role, kind of like a Cypher from The Matrix. Except doesn't betray anyone.
Right. No, exactly, yeah. I see that connection, yeah.
Oh, man, that's good. Let's go with Brendan Hunt.
Okay.
But Bill Burr is a good choice.
Yeah.
If I need to give you one.
It really, either one would be great, I think.
Yeah. If you've gotten 2 in a row, I'm taking this one.
That's okay.
Brendan Hunt. Cool. So then that brings us to...
Hippie?
Yeah.
Hippie.
Mine's a bit of a 1-for-1 also, but...
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it is.
Keegan-Michael Key.
Interesting. How old's Keegan-Michael Key?
I have no idea. I liked him because Hippie was kind of the freak out, you're going to kill us all, save my rat. He was kind of kooky, but he was also the nerdy guy.
Yeah. On theme, he's the exact same age as both Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg. He's 50 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. I do think he's a good choice because I think, much like Haley Atwell, Keegan-Michael Key can do anything. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and I've been trying to put him in other things that I'm casting, and I keep being like, oh wait, yeah, he's 50, but not you never believe it, and he's in Schmigadoon right now, and I don't think he's playing someone who's 50 years old.
No.
He is great, full stop.
Who'd you have?
For this role, I went with someone who's a little bit crazy, and we're used to seeing do the freak out, but does it very well, and he's been typecast in this role, but it's because he's excellent at it. And this actor's name is Robert Sheehan.
Oh, yeah.
From Umbrella Academy and Misfits.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a very one-for-one, but it's one-for-one because he does it so well. But based on kind of like my idea that I didn't think when I was casting him at the time, but like that I kind of like the idea of like he's just the person who just stays on the boat. Like he doesn't think he could ever be able to fully acclimate to like get rid of the pressure, and he's just like, I'm stuck down here, so I'm going to live down here with my animals. It's going to be great. I chose this life, and I like it.
Yeah, no, he's definitely got that. You know, if he's going to only want the animals and stuff, I feel like that's almost a better fit.
Yeah.
I feel like he definitely feels more earthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought he would be fun.
If we're going to give him like a whole zoo and everything, and he's talking to the animals and stuff, that actually,
that's what I want.
Actually does, yeah, that definitely fits pretty well. I like that.
Cool.
Okay.
Then, that brings us to Lisa One Night Standing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's my turn to go first.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking about Loki,
and
we're talking about Lovecraft Country, we're talking about Luther, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't both cast Wunmi Masaku for this.
Who's that?
Wunmi Masaku. She was the person, like the other leader of in Loki. She was one of the other TVA agents who didn't trust him. And then when she finds out that they're all variants.
Was she the in uniform, the officer?
Yeah, the officer
her.
uniform, yeah.
I thought about her. Actually, I did. I didn't write her down, but I did think about her. But I felt like I was starting to get too many from one place, you know.
I mean, she's the only person I cast from Loki, so I'm okay with it.
Oh, okay.
Who'd you have?
I had Aquafina.
Oh, that's a fun choice.
You know, she doesn't do action and stuff like this, but I feel like she'd be. She's got the attitude and the snarkiness. Bring in some Asian casting, you know, it's kind of diverse.
I mean, yeah. I mean, since we replaced Steven Yeun with Gabriel Luna, that is true. That is... Oh, I like that. But I
don't know if she'd want to do it. It seems like it's out of her wheelhouse, but...
It's out of her wheelhouse, and I feel like putting her in the same boat as Robert Sheehan. Like, I would be more interested in casting her as Alan Hippie Carnes.
Okay.
And I potentially would be interested in replacing...
That actually is interesting.
Nora... Replacing Robert Sheehan with Nora, which is her... I don't remember her last name.
Nora's that show. Yeah, the show she's on.
But it's her actual name.
Yeah.
Like, Aquafina is like her stage name, and like her actual first name is Nora something.
Didn't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, she wasn't born with the name Aquafina.
I had a backup there. I had Rashida Jones as a backup.
Rashida Jones is also very good.
Would be good.
For this one, I'm gonna say let's go with Wunmi Masaku, just because I could also see her working on an oil rig kind of thing.
Okay.
And I love Rashida Jones. I love Aquafina.
I'm totally happy with her.
I don't necessarily see either of them in this style of blue collar profession.
Yeah. You know, I usually it's when I think about casting, I'm thinking about characters they've played. You know, as opposed to and
introducing something that they would be interested in doing. And I think you're right. And I have not had with the exception of Bud Brigman, every person you've cast in this has so far been like right on the money. Like I've loved all of it. What other characters do you have? Because, like, literally for everything I have some other military guy and someone on the surface.
I think we've gone as deep as you need to, because I don't really feel like you... Yeah.
Puns.
Oh, guys, totally unexpected, unplanned there. Because I feel like everybody else is interchangeable. You know, you have several other military guys and several other crew workers. And I actually wanted to kind of trim the cast down. I'd like to see it smaller.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it by limiting the number of people, limiting the scope.
I think they had a larger cast at the beginning because they needed to have some red shirts to kill off to introduce the stakes.
Yeah.
I do think we need that, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time searching for that. The one thing I need is that we're casting Gabriel Luna, who I think is in his 40s.
Don't be ageist, man.
He's 38. but he would be like an older officer, and so for some other military guy, I cast someone early 20s. A much younger person in the military who would just follow his orders until finally, like, he goes too far and they're like, sir, no, we can't. This is too much. This is too far. We do not have these orders.
Right.
And so I wanted to have some other, a military kid. Because even in the movie that we have now, there are those two military guys that weren't killed. There's the one that was injured who finally, when he finds out that what Lieutenant Coffey's doing, is like, dude, no. And he's the one that takes the clip out of the gun. And who saves Bud's life because Lieutenant Coffey tried to shoot him, and the guy's like, nope, surprise, I took the bullets out of your gun. And the other one who's just going along following the orders until they, like, clocked him, and he's like, yeah, I guess we shouldn't set off a nuke that's going to kill us all. But I feel like we just needed the one person who's on his side until he's not.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I cast, like, someone who's, like, kind of the Disney School of Acting. He was on Diary of a Wimpy Kid, he was on Jessie, and then eventually Bunked. And he's one of the kids in Pacific Rim Uprising.
Oh yeah, it's a great show.
This kid's name is Karen Brar. Karanbrar.
Yep. Oh yeah, he's cool.
Just a cool other kind of military dude.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of works
I
for
could
that.
see him, being
Just
military.
Following orders until he doesn't is kind of who I thought. And then I had someone on the surface, and I cast someone else from Terminator Dark Fate from that.
Mm-hmm.
Just another dude. I cast Diego Boneta. He's in Terminator Dark Fate. He's
is he the boyfriend?
No,
he's the brother.
The brother who gets
yeah.
Who Gabriel Luna kills.
Oh, how pleasant. Yeah, he's the one he goes after at the factory or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's also in Rock of Ages and Scream Queens. And like, I don't even need this role, but just like someone on the surface who's also military who talks to them, and then we never see him again.
Yeah. The only other person I wrote down was to give a part to my alter ego, Stuart from the comic book shop on Big Bang Theory. Kevin Sussman could replace Chris Elliott as the guy on the bridge who yells, "Look over there!
Look over there, guy."
Yeah, Bendix was his name in the credits.
Got it.
But he's kind of the guy pointing at the radar and that kind of stuff.
Good, love it. We got it. We're doing that.
Okay.
Good. Kevin Sussman as Bendix, the look over there guy. Cool. Which brings us to writer and director.
Oh, this is cool. I had
a hyphenate?
No. Well, no. Actually, it was a team.
Great.
That I liked because I actually have interviewed this writer. He's done some really cool stuff, and he's busier than heck. Actually, he is Mattson Tomlin. He did Project Power for Netflix.
Okay. And
he's working on the Batman right now, and he's going to be working on Terminator, their anime series for Netflix. That Terminator's doing, or
cool.
that Netflix is doing. And then the director that he worked with on Project Power was David Ayer. He also did Bright and he did Bright and Suicide Squad as well.
So, I hate both those movies.
Really? Oh.
Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad was pretty
Bright?
horrible. No. Bright I liked. I liked Bright a lot, actually.
Oh, you were wrong.
Suicide Squad, that was a mess.
Okay, well...
But I like them as a team,
Yeah, they're a good team. I like the idea of going with Mattson Tomlin. Like, that's a good idea. We may replace my writer with yours just because I like the idea of bringing in this younger guy. My writer is... I mean, both of these are big-name writer-director people. But my writer... can kind of do like the stylized, interesting design, but also can do like kind of the hard drama, but also like sprinkling in the comedy. I went with Brian Fuller.
Oh my gosh, I love Brian Fuller.
Yeah, everyone loves Brian Fuller. Brian Fuller's great. And I realized I haven't really ever pulled him for this show. I might have, I don't remember. But like Pushing Daisies, Star Trek Discovery,
God, yeah.
Hannibal, like the first season of American Gods, like this kind of thing is absolutely Brian Fuller's wheelhouse. And I think it's the sort of thing he'd really enjoy getting to do. So that, I thought, would be fun. I think going with Mattson Tomlin is probably a more fun choice, but we're not going with David Ayer.
Okay.
I did kind of the obvious choice for director, because I feel like this is the director that would get tagged for this. It's the obvious director. He's going to, like, when they remake The Abyss, it's going to be the guy who did Arrival and Blade Runner 2049 and Dune. Dennis Villeneuve.
Is it Villeneuve?
Villeneuve, sorry.
Yeah. It just means like New World kind of thing.
Cool. And like, he's the director for this, like, obviously.
Yeah, okay.
Part of the reason why I wanted to pair him with Brian Fuller is because Brian Fuller isn't a director, and B, can like inject the fun into the script. Mm-hmm. So it's there for the actors, and then Dennis Villeneuve would be there for the environment in the world.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. I mean, if you can pull off Dune.
Yeah. Well,
yet to be seen, but the trailer looks good.
But he pulled off Arrival.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled off Blade Runner 2049. Like, this is, like, weird sci-fi shenanigans are absolutely his wheelhouse. Like, that's the world he plays in. I'm happy to go with Mattson Tomlin. He's your friend. He's worked on cool things, and it's, like, a more modern take on something that I'm sure he grew up watching, even though it came out the year before he was born.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Sure.
He has less baggage about it then.
Sure. But yeah.
I mean, if you can get Brian Fuller, I'm totally on board with that.
What would end up happening for a movie like this is Mattson Tomlin would be hired to write it, and then he would be fired, and they'd bring in Brian Fuller to do rewrites.
To rewrite it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what would happen. Like, Mattson Tomlin would do, like, the skeleton and kind of the structure of the movie, and then Brian Fuller would come in and do, like...
The nuance and
the nuance and the
character
the joke
and the stuff, yeah.
But yeah, that's our cast.
Yeah. No, I like it.
That is...
I would love to see this movie with this cast.
Yeah, that's The Abyss.
Yeah.
Let me take you through our cast. We've got Bud Brigman being played by Winston Duke. Lindsay Brigman, or Lindsay, whatever her last name is, because their fiance is not married yet, is Gugu Mbathu Raw. Lieutenant Coffey is Gabriel Luna. Catfish DeVries is Brendan Hunt. Alan Hippie Carnes, the dude with the rat, is going to be Robert Sheehan. But I'm not opposed to it being Aquafina, depending on who meshes better with the cast. Lisa One Night Standing is going to be Wunmi Musaku. Some other military guy will be Karen Brar. Someone on the surface will be Diego... Or you know what? No. The other person on the surface is going to be Bendix. The look over there guy, Kevin Sussman.
Yep.
All of this will be written by Mattson Tomlin and then probably fired and rewritten by Brian Fuller. And then directed by Dennis Villanueva. Villanueva. Because, of course, it will be.
Yes. And visual effects by Industrial Light Magic.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, yes. That is The Abyss. 2021, and the one just keeps going down, 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 further into the deep. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We remade the movie.
Good work.
Take that, James Cameron.
He's busy.
He's busy making 17 Avatar movies. Tune in next episode where I'll be remaking Avatar. Which is true.
Get yourself some unobtainium now.
Yeah, before you get it before prices
prices go up.
Yeah, basically. So cool, Tom. Thank you so much for A, making me watch this movie, which I'd never seen, and B, remaking it with me.
Oh, thanks for having me back. I loved it. It was fun.
To remind everyone, where can they find Wordcursion?
Wordcursion is at wordcursion.com, or you can just search Wordcursion on the App Store or on Google Play. And you can find me online on Twitter, Tom_Loveman, and Tom Loveman on Instagram.
Spell Loveman just in case.
Loveman, Loveman, just how it sounds.
Love it.
The Loveman.
Cool. If you're interested in finding me on Twitter, I'm at Sam Gasch, SamGasch, or you can follow the podcast on Twitter or Instagram at Ideal Remake, or join us on Facebook, Ideal Remake or Ideal Remake Podcast, and that would be great. Or if you want to take a moment and do something nice for Ideal Remake or for Writers Group Therapy, which is this other great podcast that Tom runs with Rashni Lumeo, would be to go on to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a wonderful review. And that would just be a delight. And we would love you forever for it. Yeah, that brings us to the end of our remake of The Abyss. So, Tom.
Come up for a breath.
That's your favorite quote from the movie for The Abyss?
I don't know.
What do you have a favorite quote?
No, I don't have one off the top of my head.
It's not strictly a quotable movie.
I mean, there's lots of one-liners and stuff, but it's all situational.
It's all situational. It's all just referring to poor Lindsay Brigman as a bitch, and it's just like, oh, guys, no, don't do that. I had a hard time finding a quote from this movie. I don't know what our favorite quote from this movie would be.
There was some deep. I think I had one that was kind of more of a deep thought kind of thing.
When it comes to the safety of these people, there's me and then there's God. Understand?
Mine is we all see what we want to see. Coffey looks and he sees Russians. He sees hate and fear. You have to look with better eyes than that.
That is a good one. I like that one a lot. Good.